Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek, and today I've got a kind of little colorful video for you on some currency we're going to look at and talk about a little bit. All graded, and I'm a big fan of paper money. First of all, I, I'm mentioning the color right away because I just love the color differential when you get all the different seals together. And paper money looks so great when it's in high grade. Just the overall attractiveness of the notes when you get them all, in high grade, they just kind of pop, and so it's kind of fun. So this note is affectionately referred to as the funny back. Um, they made the funny back style in the 1928 series of notes, and then again in 1934. So this note itself is PCGS graded Choice New 64, and all three of these notes are really nice uncirculated examples. And we are going to try to take a deeper dive into the notes and take a look. One of the things that you're going to look at for a higher grade note is usually going to be the quality of the paper, especially when you get near the corners. Because, the body of the note oftentimes, if it's uncirculated, will look similar, but it's the edge of the note where you start to see crinkles and flaws that can really take it down. There's like a little stain spot right there. And it's hard for me to exactly describe high grade notes and how to grade them. I will say that just collecting notes over the years, paper money collectors used to be the single pickiest people. They were right up there with stamp collectors. If a note back in the day, if a note had the smallest flaw to it, they would have absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. So that's a bygone era. I mean, today it's a little bit different. So this note currently this note trades for about $70. That's the gray sheet price. This is the 28A series, and so that actually shows up in a couple different places there. 28A, 28A, and overall a nice looking note. Usually to get a nice uncirculated note, you've got to have that strong strike, you would say, a bold printing, and that note definitely has it. All right, next up, I got a couple of really cool fives. So this five, series 1928. So this one you notice was a 28A, which means it was a second run. Your 28 would have been the first run. So these notes, under different laws, this is a silver certificate. This is a US note. These notes were circulating at the same time. Even though they spent the same, they had slightly different meanings to them. So this note is, here we go. Certificate is receivable for all public dues, and when so received may be reissued. Yeah, those are words. It's going to be confusing. This note is legal tender. Its face value for all debts, public and private, except duties on imports. That was a separate thing, and interest on the public debt. Huh. There you go. This note's also a high grade note. This one they called a gem. Premium paper quality, that's what PPQ is. The other things to know is, so you see this FR number, that's the Friedberg number, the year and the denomination, and then legal tender is the type of note that it was passed under, the law it was passed under. Sometimes they'll have other annotations on the back of the notes. So I just want to look again kind of at some of the qualities that this note has on the edge. And you can see that kind of like white line that goes around. What you're actually seeing is an impression from the other side of the note coming through. That's actually the baseline of the other note coming through. And so it's kind of hard to compare here, but you've got really strong edges and corners on this note compared to the other one we were just looking at. There's actually, in my opinion, a noticeable difference in the paper quality on the edges. So, you know, that plays heavily going from like a 64 to a 65. That little bit, because in paper money, it's not like coins where you have contact marks. You know, you're dealing with a different. You know, it's a similar. There are some crossover in the fact that you're grading on a scale and you're moving from one end of the scale to the other, but there are different qualities, of course, between paper and metal. So last but not least, we have this Federal Reserve note, 1928. This one, the 11 and the K, that's the Dallas district. And what does this guy say up here? This one's redeemable in gold on demand at the United States Treasury or in gold or lawful money at any Federal Reserve Bank. So this is cool. Sometimes people refer to these as gold demand notes, but that's not really what they're normally called in the collecting market. They are called Federal Reserve notes. After this, after the 28 series, I believe all that changed and they got rid of the redeemable in gold part. And it read a lot more like, well, it's, you know, it's good for something, but you can figure it out. So this note also a 64 premium paper quality. One of the things also to mention, because this note it's actually very noticeable on, is when you get a note that's not trimmed perfectly, they're usually not going to call it, or they're not supposed to call it a 65. So when you get a note that the trim, you see how the trim gets more and more narrow towards the end of this note? That type of thing is going to keep that note from being a 65. Okay, so, and of course, I'm focusing on the edges because those are kind of one of the things that you'll see that will distinguish between like a 64 and a 65. I mean, but really, the overall body of the note, that's where you start talking about, you know, some of the other different uncirculated grades. The body of the note does matter as well. But usually when you think of the body of the note, you're talking about the difference between going from an XF to an AU to an UNC, because the uncirculated note should all be completely fold free. If you have the lightest of creases in a note, then it's going to come back, you know, an AU. It should not be registered as uncirculated if it has a crease in it. So I love the Federal Reserve notes from this time period. I think that dark green looks so great on this note. They're very tough to come by. I did you a disservice by not mentioning here. I got to get my my note straight. This note here, the Friedberg 1525, retails about 175. This note retails, well, I have to check and see on the district, but the type note is about $150. So that's kind of a retail price. So anyway, that's kind of a fun dive into some history, some banknotes, and some higher grade banknotes. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ben the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.